in their sphere of influence. Now, for my next guest, when I found out about what he did, I thought, how? How does someone merge these two things together? This is exactly what, the neuroscientist Bolotta was talking about. Now, my guest is a British rapper who blends together both science and rap. He's just released his latest album called Original Conscience, and I'm very pleased to say he's here in the studio. Conscious, thank you.
Consensus.
Thank you so much. See, my brain is so in.
It's a lot of con words.
It's a lot of con stuff.
I do it on purpose. You see that conscience? You see how I've spelt it? It's like con and then science, but obviously small s is conscience.
Yes,
right?
That's very true.
And that's the thing. So I can forgive you because it was. I was kind of leading you. I was leading you astray. That's what I do. Merging everything. It gets confusing, innit?
Well, listen, it's such a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was a total surprise. I wasn't expecting it, to be honest, but I really appreciate that. I was like, okay, I'm still in the studio, still talking about me. I appreciate that, so that's great.
But the thing is, right, it's because what you're doing is very unique. Merging together both rap and science and using that to educate people.
Yeah.
For you, where did that begin?
Ooh. I mean, this is so essentially like growing up in South London, Lewisham.
Blue Borough,
exactly. When it was Blue Borough as well. Yeah, like I don't know if people still call it that now, but growing up there was like the early grime era, and so early noughties. I was about POW, and I was like 14, 15 when all of that stuff, Lethal B and stuff came out, and I also used to listen to hip hop. I just at some point I turned off the TV and I was just pirate radio, Choice FM, Kiss, this, that, One Extra. That was my teenage years, and that's what kept me kind of out of trouble. The music side of things kept me out of trouble from like the beef side of where I grew up, that and playing basketball and stuff. And I would say in hip hop, for example, hip hop culture, education and educational music is just a standard. Do you know what I mean? Like the old school hip hop, or the hip hop that I used to listen to around that time, had substance and it had knowledge in it. So it was not strange for me to hear some references to things. Obviously at the time, I don't know what those references are. But when I create music now, I'm obviously emulating that idea of conscious music, essentially. So coming from the grime background though, and mixing grime wasn't really like that. Grime's evolved a lot. So you've now got drill. And for me, they're just genres coming from the same pot, the same pocket, rap, poetry, essentially. So I didn't see why I shouldn't be able to do educational rap. That was a challenge, but can I make it mainstream? Because everyone always used to say, that's never gonna be mainstream. It's nice, it's cool. I didn't want it to be corny. I didn't want it to be any of that stuff, but it's in hip hop. There's knowledge from the streets, Method Man, Wu-Tang, all of that stuff. Wu-Tang's for the kids, Nas, all of that stuff. Now you listen to Getz's latest stuff. Do you know what I mean? People are going in. They've always been going in. Wretch and all of them. They drop in knowledge. So it's no different in that way. It's just the topics. Akala, another good example. So yeah, that's for me. Now how I got into science is obviously a bit different, and where did I take it? But the educational rap idea, no different from I think what rap should be, or hip hop should be, more so hip hop.
And I think that's why some of those artists that you mentioned have been so standout. They've been so legendary.
Yeah.
They've been the ones that we always refer back to.
Of course.
And they stand out amongst the crowd. And, for years to come, we will continue to talk about those people, the Tupacs of our age, those who have long gone,
Exactly.
Are still some of the icons that we look to. And as you say, some of the current rappers are drawing upon today. You studied science.
Yes, I studied engineering, and it's like so I know I've cut you, but there's a distinction, because the thing is, I was not necessarily great at, I was all right at science, but physics I studied engineering, and you need physics and maths, and physics and engineering is applied science. So it's very important to understand that, because somehow a lot of what you do up until university of science is taught at you. And that's where what I do kind of becomes like slightly different, because I'm trying to include people and not make it like a lecture. It's more like an involvement thing. So that's why I'm like, yeah, there's science, but I actually studied engineering. I wasn't really, I'm not a science brain, I'm an engineer brain. I'm like a creative problem solver.
See, that's interesting, because sometimes we can look at, well, let me not say we. I know that when I think back to my science lessons, I always wonder, well, this isn't relevant to my everyday life.
Exactly.
When did I last use the periodic table?
Yeah.
When I was, I don't know, going shopping or buying water/H2O. I just don't do it.
Yeah.
So talk to me more about that applied science bit, and actually where that fascination for engineering really took off for you.
I think I've always been like that. I always used to like building Lego and this and that and whatever. I was really creative. Obviously, I've taken that up to a certain point now. But when I went to university and I studied engineering, I was like, I wanted to do I did aeronautical engineering, which was planes and space and helicopters and stuff. So that was really cool, but it was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And at uni, engineering becomes maths and computing. So what happened is the creative side for me was like, where's that gone? And I felt, oh my gosh, what have I done? Why did I do this course? I should have done like something more with your hands and stuff. So I think the creative part of me, that is it the left side of the brain or whatever, that side of the brain was itching, to do something as well. And I think, really, I see the having a strong degree like aeronautical is super powerful to just go. If I was working for someone, to go there and show my CV. So I can see the benefits of it. I wouldn't say everyone needs to become an engineer or a scientist, but to appreciate those things, it's definitely, you can then go into so many different avenues and stuff. So I wanted to try and make something, expose that there's power in knowing that information, because the skills you learn when you do those degrees and stuff are widely applicable. It's not just, oh, you study engineering, go and be an engineer. 40% of the course I did went into the city and did finance and economics and bankers and
and
mad.
You've obviously transitioned into music.
Exactly.
Did you ever see that being the case?
Well, to be honest, I always, just before I went to uni, I was kind of getting good, like really good. And I got into a bit of trouble where the music the road tried to drag me in, but I'm not that type of person. So I took a step back. I just was like, I'm not doing it. But then it's just part of me. I've always been writing, and since I was 15, I've been writing. And then I stopped, but then I was just producing. And then I think in my second year, I found myself as an artist, I'd say. So I was creating with a purpose, instead of just what I used to do, which was battling. And I would battle grime clashes, where I'd be like, oh, you don't have a gun in this, because a lot of gun talk back in the day, people would say, I've got a gun in this and that, and I'd be like, well, come on, you're 16, 15, you ain't got a gun. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I started. But then after, when the consensus idea came, it was I've got access to knowledge now that I think there's useful for people, and I understand that music is a vehicle that touches people in a different way. And I was like, I want to do something to make the things I know make people more aware of those things. You know what I mean? I think nowadays, disinformation, all of that stuff, even the politicization of that idea, disinformation, misinformation, oh, you're not allowed to know this. And I don't believe in not knowing stuff. I believe that the best decisions are the best informed decisions. So when you have the most information at your disposal, most people will come to a good conclusion, or the right, if there was ever a right and a wrong thing. And I believe on judging people based on what they do informed, not what they do misinformed. So that's the whole idea. It's freedom of information, let people know stuff, and then see what happens.
So your music has definitely been informing people with the things that you're writing about. You've got an album coming out called Original Conscience. We've got a couple of tracks to play
Wicked.
from the album. The Machine, talk to me about that song.
Yeah, so it's out. The album is out. Came out just at the end of last year. And The Machine is super interesting. I'm going to try and condense it. But basically, the whole album was with something called CERN, this Hadron Collider in Switzerland. They smashed the atoms together. I also spoke to a physicist at LIGO, where it's like they did this thing where they discovered gravitational waves. And like basically I work with and NASA as well. NASA's a key word that people know. But I work with like several of these institutes, and they all have these machines, right? That they're discovering things about physics and the origin of the universe, and that's what the album is about. So The Machine is kind of like taking wordplay on machinery and stuff, and it's an analogy. I'm talking about these science machines, but actually I'm also referencing back in the roads when someone goes, "Man's got the machine in it." And so if you listen to the chorus, it goes, "I've left the machine at home." It's not that machine. It's just the machine that goes. So it's like I'm having fun with this idea that obviously the youth might be like, "Oh yeah, I've got the machine and this and that." And I'm like, "Oh no, not that machine. I'm talking about the science machine. I'm that type of person." Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot going on, but it's a very fun track, and that's what it's about.
Well, listen, I cannot wait to play this. I listened through to it earlier. Let's get it on. This one is called The Machine.
I left the machine at home. I've been against what's current my whole existence. I am so persistent. You're in for a shock, that's no resistance. If I show resistance, have you got potential? Would you know the difference? If you cross my section, can you go the distance? I am so ballistic, but the flow is rivers. You probably need road to fix it. Mad as hell, mad as hell. You're forcing a motive you haven't felt. I'm writing lines in my padded cell, charging around like I'm riding a carousel. A series of words that I added well. Everything found in verses parallel. The more they resisted, the harder the travel felt. Holding the heat to get atoms. Now I left the machine at home. That's not the machine, it's just the machine that goes. Said I left the machine at home. So I don't know what they'll charge me with. You failed to inspect what my answer is. Did you detect any part of it? Stay calm before your fuse box bursts. A real life wife for you clowns at work. They wouldn't be grounded cause they know I'm down to earth. You better stay neutral for what it's worth. I said calm, some of them might get sparked. Palm, lit 'em up, lamps in the door. It's like I directed LEDs with my palms. I can generate power for anyone who wanna start war. Agony, agony. They tried impeding the salary. I charge for my time, but the parody. Currently the law said charge me with battery. I am off the meter, apparently you only get half when full to capacity. Your goal was potentially divide us gradually. I urge you to switch that strategy. I left the machine at home. That's not the machine, it's just the machine that goes. Said I left the machine at home. So I don't know what they'll charge me with. You failed to inspect what my answer is. Did you detect any part of it? I said I left the machine at home. That's not the machine, it's just the machine that goes. Said I left the machine at home. So I don't know what they'll charge me with. You failed to inspect what my answer is. Did you detect any part of it? I need alternate ways to direct them all. AC/DC in a festival. Best of all, this charge was preventable, but the path I took is unconventional. So I'm slamming on the accelerator. The machine shot by him like a taser. So on point, it's got a laser. You might hear this heat tune in the crater. Validate, validate. You work in the field, you can't navigate. You're forcing motives like Faraday. So many laws, they remind me of magistrates. The right hand grip said that away, the left hand rules. It's hard to play patty cake. Sometimes they take turns to exaggerate. Why you cold up like sellotape? I left the machine at home. That's not the machine, it's just the machine that goes. Said I left the machine at home. So I don't know what they'll charge me with. You failed to inspect what my answer is. Did you detect any part of it?
Consensus with The Machine here on BBC Radio London. Studied engineering and is now merging both science and rap. Thank you so much for being here. That song is so creative.
Thank you.
And quite like nothing I've heard before.
You should see it live. Live is kind of mad.
Does it pop off? I bet it pops off.
Do you know what? Live with a live band. Like live with me, I always make my live shows like good.
Yeah.
But live with a live band, because you've got this electric guitar thing.
Ooh, yes.
It's mad. And people go, oh, this is, that's sick. So musically, that was really important for this album. I've done a previous album called Concerned, and this was just working with CERN. This, as I said, the Hadron Collider in Switzerland, where they're smashing atoms together at close to the speed of light, and people think they're making black holes and calling up demons and all that stuff.
Wow.
I went there. Had no idea before, and then met a scientist, did some residency thing. It's kind of mad, my life is just just because I'm interested in this thing, I fit in a pocket of things that wow, I'm really interested in very specific stuff. But yeah, we did an album there, and then I can't remember what I was saying now, but basically that led on to this basically. So
and I guess when you're in these spaces, are you thinking music, content, how can I transform this? Or are you literally just...
That was it, the musicality. Yeah, so what I was thinking is, because I'd gone there specifically to make an album, I was like, I just want to see if it can be done. That was the first time around. This time around, because I had done it, I'd been on tour, been to the States, went to Johns Hopkins, I've lectured in Cambridge. I've done a lot of guest lecturing and stuff with it, as well as done workshops at local government level where we're piloting schemes where we're trying to see if we can do an overlap between creative subjects and science subjects and stuff like that. So after all of that, working with EU stuff and Ontario government, American government, came back and was like, okay, I can actually try and do that here, do an investigation. And I got this thing called the STFC grant, which is a Science Council grant here. And it funded this album. So the goal of this album was to make it specifically for 14 to 18-year-olds, what they call low science capital, which means your parents or people didn't do science. So you're just coming from a normal background. And with me, it was specifically a ethnic minority, a kind of background thing. And I wanted to make music that was just genuine, just genuine music that could be appreciated, that also had that element in and hopefully the teacher could play it in class and then do some exercises off the back of it. Do you see what I mean? So the creativity and the musicality this time around was a high focus, and that's what ended up me picking out the artists, because I had a budget and stuff. Before it was no budget, it was just off my own back, and it was just an exploration thing. This time was really okay, I want to do this thing because I've seen what it can do. Kids have done their own particle physics raps. They made their own videos just off doing workshops with me.
So I was going to ask, what's the uptake been, and have young people really been engaging with it?
Yeah. And also it's so mad. I was doing a workshop with Tomorrow's Warriors, and Tomorrow's Warriors is a jazz movement that I think, who was it recently? Ezra Collective won a MOBO or something, but they came up through them, and Moses Boyd and Theon Cross and all those guys came up through them. And I was doing a workshop with them, Moses and I think Swindle or something. But one of the guys there, who's a musician, he was like, are you the Consensus does the physics thing? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, my teacher played your tracks about a song about antimatter. He's like, my teacher played your tracks when I was in school. And I was like, damn, I didn't even know that, so yeah, man, it's there, the whole point of these things is it's there. If you're so inclined, you're going to pay attention. It will make you pay attention a little bit more. You just learn that little bit more. And that's it, the world, the universe. I mean, for me personally, I wonder, or I have thought about why are we here? How did we get here? A lot of people don't, but I think it's a kind of obvious question. You see what I mean? So I wanted to make sure that for those people who are interested, there's a route to have that information.
So what has your discovery been so far? Because you're really embedded in that world, and you're looking at the universe and understanding the makeup of the world that we live in. Where are you on that journey?
So I did about, I think it was 6 or 8 different interviews for this album with top tier physicists, public engagement speakers from around the world. and they're like personal lectures, like 2 hours each. So some of them are bringing out. I've got them online, so I've chopped them up and made them public for everybody. And what I found out, because I didn't know really, is that most scientists pretty much no one knows what happened before the point of what they call the Big Bang. And what people think of as the Big Bang and it just happened, it's like, well, what happened was like the universe started expanding from a point, but it doesn't mean like it didn't come from something before that, or it just means that that's as far back as their estimations have taken them. So, questions, I don't want to get too mad philosophical or whatever, but like questions like the existence of God and stuff are not science questions. Do you see what I mean? They don't interfere with the idea of the Big Bang. For example, there was something before the Big Bang. The Big Bang is what we know happened, and we have an idea, a rough estimate of the age of the universe. But what we call the universe is just like me talking to you. Do you know what I mean? If I say the universe, we're talking about the known universe, because we know the universe is bigger than what we can actually see because of this thing about the speed of light. And I'm looking at you, looking at me like, whoa, this guy's going in. Why did I ask that question? But it's important, it's important.
No, because like my mind is wondering, because I'm thinking, well, why can't we have science and God together?
No, we can.
Why isn't there that conversation between what the scientists have discovered and the faith element about it? Because can they be intertwined?
Let's just say for the sake of BBC, it's not a Western idealized conversation. So you might find you go to another part of the world, i.e. like the Middle East or Africa or somewhere, or basically most other places except for here, and they will have them both together. Now, an interesting fact is the reason we have, and I made a song about this, the original Code song, it goes through the history of man looking at the origin of the universe. Now, the reason we have this idea of the Big Bang is because in the early 20th century, so like last 100 years or so, there was a physicist who was also a Catholic priest. And I think he said, well, the universe had to start from God. So he came up with this idea based on the maths and the science. We need to look for this thing. We need to look for this initial explosion or thing that happened. And then they looked for it and then they found it. So that there's always like a person who believes in something who's kind of pushing it. Like similarly, again, I don't want to get too technical, but like the idea of infinity, from what I understand, was made by a mathematician who believed in God, right? And he said infinity must exist because, and this is what I was saying about this idea of the known universe. The known universe is as far as we can see. Now, the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light can reach us. So basically what that means is like, as time goes on, we see less and less of the universe. So if we were back in the beginning of the universe, we would have seen everything. But as time goes on, when you're like twice your age or whatever, you're going to look and you're not going to be able to see as much of the universe. So we know there's stuff outside of it, right? And that's the thing. When we're talking about these conversations between me and you and stuff, we just say, oh yeah, the universe. And so one of the nice quotes, I think that Don Lincoln said, he's a really, really good educator on this stuff. I recommend, like, if you're interested, check out Don Lincoln, Fermilab on YouTube. But he basically goes, if anyone tells you like about some singularity or some like exact point which the universe started, they're like either paraphrasing and basically dumbing it down to you, or they don't know what they're talking about, or they assume that you don't know what you're talking about and they're just giving you like a thing. So the version I've said where they know it, that something happened before that, but this is the point where we can start from, that's like the real answer. So there is no like what happened at the beginning of the it's just the beginning of what we call the beginning of the universe. Do you see what I mean?
Well, there is certainly so much to unpick and unpack. I for one, am very fascinated in this. And it's certainly something I think we should talk about, because we do exist in this world. And, you know, not even just what came before, but what is happening after.
Of course, yeah.
Especially coming from a cultural aspect. This is something that, you know, especially within our Black community, these are conversations that happen, whether you follow a religion or you don't. Consensus, I'm loving this. Thank you so much. It feels strange that, and by coincidence, the next track we have of yours is Out of This World.
Indeed, yeah.
Tell us about this song.
So this song, I wanted to prove them wrong. I'm going to make a club tune. I'm going to make a club tune about particle physics, and like, it's basically a song about Newtonian mechanics and Kepler's laws and planetary motion. But wait. But then it's also about me in the club, like, and then going up to people and dancing and people trying it with me, and basically there's a whole bunch of analogies. And I did it with my good friend Moses Boyd, who's we grew up in the same area, and he's a big time jazz artist. I just said to him, because he's very like interested in experimental whatever. So I was like, I want to do this thing. I finally got a budget, and come man, we need to do a track. I missed his first album because I was doing some stuff. So he was like, yeah. We just went, jammed it out in a session, and then I took it, wrote to it, came back, and then it was a very slick, quick track. But the lyrics, if I do say so myself, is very on point. So yeah.
Listen, cannot wait to hear it. Please, would you do us the honour of introducing this track?
All right, so the next track you're going to hear is Out of This World, featuring Moses Boyd and myself, Consensus.
I'm too out of this world for them. 9.8 if you scale to 10. Feel the strength. You're constantly G-double boss to Snoop. I'm interstellar and there's bars to proof. I know it hurts, you were on a different frequency. The angle wasn't even degrees to speak.